podcast, and my good friend and great actor,
thank you.
Mr. Andrew Nance is here with us, and he cheers with us tonight. And as always, we like to tell everybody, hey, where the rum came from. And this rum came from the City Gates Distillery, my favorite flavor, spiced orange rum.
Can't go wrong with that.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. I love it. So, we hope everybody's doing well. We got a few surprises in store for you tonight, a whole lot of fun. But let's first do what we normally do and tell everybody to go to our YouTube channel. Like us, subscribe to us. If you like what we're doing, then keep watching us. Every Monday night, it's something different. And we hope that you'll be a part of our show, a part of our crew, a part of our cast. So go to YouTube channel, Captain's Quarters Podcast, and subscribe, like, and hit that little bell. That little ding-a-ling will give you a little noise once in a while and let you know that we're about to do a next show. We always like to start our show with paying our respects, and we have two different people we want to pay our respects to this year, or this week, I'm sorry. Angela Lansbury. Yes, she passed on just last week. Very sad thing. I don't know anybody that didn't know who she was.
Oh, I know.
She is so famous, and just an icon.
Great stories have been coming out about her, and the coolest one I came across, her daughter was part of the Manson family, and she up and moved the family to Ireland to get her away from the California drugs and all that thing.
Wow, that's a surprising one. Wow. So we pay our respects to her, and then of course Anthony Coltrane. Yes, I know, Max. I know.
Hey, Max.
Hi. Anthony Coltrane. Most everybody knows him as Hagrid.
Yeah.
Hagrid. I read a whole bunch of things this afternoon on the web about people that were saying things about him and what a great guy he was and how he always kept the cast up when it was... one of the things I read was when they were doing... what was the series on the one episode or the movie Alcazar, the Prince of Alcazar?
Right,
they were dealing with a lot of rain, and they were stuck in his cabin for a while, and he just was cutting up and having a good time with them.
Yeah.
So we give them our respect, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead, Mr. Longwood. Very good. Thank you, sir. And being the entertainers we are, it's always good to recognize those that...
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of them have put stuff into our repertoire themselves. I mean, they're the ones that do things, and then we learn from that.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful thing to pay them respect and think of their talents. So that's how we do it. Quote of the week, Mr. Davey. What is the quote of the week this week? You have to be odd to be number one. Dr. Seuss.
All right.
I like that one. Dr. Seuss. You have to be odd to be number one. That's a good one. Very good, Davey. As always, every week you top yourself with a great quote, and that's a good one. We like that. So now we move on to question of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, live theater or movies? Which is it that you truly enjoy more?
Well, I suppose it depends on the show and the movie.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And but yeah, I like live theater.
Live theater. I've always liked live theater. It wasn't until I really actually worked with Andy in the Colonial Crew Review, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that I'd ever actually done any stage performance whatsoever, other than comedy clubs and magic shows. I'd never done.
It's a very unique experience.
It is. It was.
And now you're dancing ballet. And doing
I've done ballet now too, and I'll tell you, when I did Captain Hook,
right,
and after I had done Captain Hook, Pat Croce was in town, and we were having a rum together, and he goes, "So why would you do ballet?" And I looked at him, I said, "Aren't you always telling everybody to test themselves and move into things that are different?"
Right, yeah.
And he goes, "Enough said," poured me another rum, and we kept on. So...
Yeah, in fact, the t-shirt I'm wearing tonight, Murder Ballad, was first time I went to New York City with my wife. It was an off-Broadway musical, and it was really cool. So I've had this T-shirt for a while, but it was a cast of three or four, and then they had a rock band, and it was all sung, and it took place in a bar. And we sat on stage at a table in the bar, and at one point the bartender's up singing on the table. But it's all about a love triangle that goes bad and ends up in someone getting murdered.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was really cool, yeah.
But you're but the audience is part of the show, too.
Yeah, we were right next to the pool table. And
Very cool.
except the bartender, when he got up on our table, started singing, and you probably know this. When you get on the stage, David knows this, and you're talking and you're singing, there's a lot of spittle that goes
Yes,
flying.
there is.
So I was at the receiving end of that. So other than that, it was a great show.
Yes. I've had that problem even in tours at the Pirate Museum.
Oh, yeah.
One time it was I even noticed it more than anything else, and I caught the eye of somebody that else saw it and watched them move to the side. So it's embarrassing to a point.
It's cool to sit on the front row for a show, but be prepared. You might get sprayed.
Yeah, it's
Especially
not like
a musical.
it's not like going to the Gallagher concert.
Yeah.
There you're destined to be sprayed with watermelons
Yeah.
and whatever else. So we always like to talk about the crew adventures, everything that the St. Augustine Swashbucklers and us are doing. So this updated version, ladies and gentlemen, October 28, 29, 28, 29, and 30, we'll be doing the Spooktacular in the Colonial Quarter. We'll be talking a little bit more about that. November 12th, we'll be in Edgewater, Florida, doing Pirates on the Edge with the Rotary Club down there. December 3rd, Santa Claus will be out at the beach tree lighting, St. Augustine Beach tree lighting, and the girls of the Sirens will be out there also collecting toys for helping Santa out. And then Miss Gina and the girls are doing a December 16th gala. Of course, we're doing January 23rd, or January 2023rd, we're doing Old City Pirate Festival. And again, you can catch us every Monday night on our podcast at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's what we have on the books right now, but there are a couple of other things I want to tell you about. This weekend is going to be a big weekend. We're doing Ancient City Kids Day again. This is a free family fun day for 4 hours, 11 o'clock till 3. Francis Field downtown. Everything is free. Everything. And they even have me on the poster. Look at that. Captain Mayhem will be down there doing a magic show. Last year we did it. It was the 25th anniversary of this Kids Day event.
Oh, cool.
And they called me up and they said, we'd like you to be the image on the T-shirt for this year. And so they put... Now you can't... It's just a pirate. That's all it is.
Right.
But you know it's me. So I was flattered, and now we're really stuck in with doing these things with these people. It's a lot of fun. The police department, the sheriff's department, the fire department, Coast Guard, military, everybody's there with stuff for the kids to climb on and have a good time, and
Wonderful.
It's free. It's a great event, and we're doing that event from 11 o'clock till 3. Come on down. I believe my magic show is scheduled for 2. I'll be closing out the entire day. Come on down and have a good time with us there at Francis Field. And very early that morning, we're doing the Jailbreak 5K walk and run for Inc., Investing in Kids, and that starts at Old City Jail.
All right.
Runs over the Volano Bridge. Had to think of the name of the bridge for a minute there. Runs over the bridge and down past the Publix all the way around through the parking lot and the new construction going on down there. And the St. Augustine Swashbucklers will be there passing out our rum-flavored water. It's something we started. We've been doing this for 5 or 6 years with them, and as they come by, the runners come by, and we pass them little cups of water. Yeah. Rum-flavored water for you, Pirates, rum-flavored. So when they asked if we would do it again, they asked if we would be if we were open to passing out rum-flavored water again.
Okay,
so it's made
cool.
a big hit.
Yeah.
It's made a big hit. So
Or water-flavored rum.
Water
Could go
flavored
either
rum.
way.
It could. That's it. Water flavored rum. So we pass it out there, and we have a good time. And they do have quite a few runners, and everybody, because it's a Halloween one, everybody's dressed up
Nice,
in something,
yeah.
and so they're
I've
running.
seen photos in the paper.
It's wonderful. And then they have some fiasco going on at the old jail at the end, but most of my crew, we have to now then run over to St. Francis Field. And then later on that Saturday night, if we haven't all expired from a full day, will be one of our working nights in the Colonial Quarter, working on the Spooktacular. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 3 nights, 28, 29, and 30. Now, at one point I want to brag on. If you look at that poster right there, there are sponsors running down the left-hand side of the page. We had enough support from sponsorship that all the ticket money will be going to the charities. Inc., investing in kids, St. Augustine Youth Services, and if you bring in 2 cans of food per person, we will give you, and that's pet food, by the way, we will give you $1 off per can. So a $10 adult ticket will only cost you $8. A $5 child ticket will only cost you $3. So if you think about it, a family of 4 could come in for $21.
Can't do much of that these days.
No, not these days. I didn't want to. And there's a new poster we just had put together to talk about our spooktacular that we'll be using. I had a photo shoot on Saturday with some video, and everything's there. So come on down and join Captain Mayhem and the crew of the St. Augustine Swashbucklers. I will tell you 4 major scenes that will be in the Colonial Quarter exhibit. We are turning the ship into probably the largest skeleton ghost ship you've ever seen in St. Augustine, if any.
You're right.
We have a mermaid scene. We have a cemetery scene. And there'll be some actual historical points in the cemetery related to St. Augustine. And we're going to have one of the largest spider webs you have ever seen in Florida. And you have to walk through it. It'll be creepy. So those are the 4 major scenes. There are some other minor scenes that are going to be there. We hope you'll come down on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, the 28th, 29th, and 30th, and join us. And just remember, your money is going to a good cause. We thank you very, very much. On that note there, Davey, you've done well. I don't think we have anything to update as after event because it's been a nice quiet week. I've been trying to catch up. And we're about ready to get full force into building the Halloween, then Edgewater, and then Christmas, and then Old City Pirate Fest, which we'll talk about more often. For now, though, let's give all our time to see if I've done the time right. Look at that, 13 minutes. Wow. I tried to keep it in under 15 minutes for all that because I'd rather have my guests do most of the talking so I can just sit and enjoy some rum. But ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you officially to Mr. Andrew Nance. Now, he has great... Andy is a good one. Andy has done voices or voice radio.
Voice work, yeah.
Voice work.
Was in radio for 25 years.
With a voice like that, you can't not imagine you doing radio. And you get comments on your voice all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I do too. But in my ear, my voice sounds terrible.
It's... Well, I've heard it so much because there's so much recording that goes on.
Right.
But I remember, when I first started out and go back and listen to recordings, and it's like, oh, I'm terrible. Oh, God.
I don't like to watch myself perform at all.
No.
I just don't. I know there's a lot of celebrities, a lot of stars, they don't like to watch what they're doing.
I've been an extra in a couple of movies, and then I've done some low-budget films. I'm never happy with how it turns out.
No, I guess as long as you get a paycheck and the director is okay with it, then it doesn't really matter, does it? So, you've done books. You've written how many books?
I've written a bunch of books.
A bunch of books.
This is my 5th being published. I do horror for kids, which this is what this is. It's for it's what they call a middle grade, so it's aimed at 8 to 12 years old, and it's with Little Brown and Company Publishing, so it's one of the big 5 publishers.
Now, is it really, really scary, or is it?
I've had 2 other kids' books with Macmillan Publishing, and they were scary. And I kind of revert to myself when I was a kid because I loved the old black and white monster movies, loved the giant bugs and the Draculas and the Frankensteins, and got into telling ghost stories. Really loved that one. And then I started reading, and I noticed when I was a kid, all the kids' books, they start out promising, but they turn out to be, the friendly ghost or the misunderstood monster. And so I started sneaking books off my dad's bookshelf. And one I remember was Alfred Hitchcock used to put out anthologies, and it was Alfred Hitchcock book, and one of the stories was a chapter from Ray Bradbury's Dandelion Wine called The Lonely One, and it was about a spinster in town who goes to the movies, and there's a serial killer, and this is before the term serial killer was around even, and she thinks he's following her home and stuff. And it was the most beautifully well written suspense story I'd ever read. And when you get to the very last line, it's like, whoa, that's awesome.
Does it have a twist then at the last minute?
I wouldn't call it a twist.
Okay,
Well, I'm not going to tell you what it is.
that's all right.
And so that kind of been, I think it was fifth grade, I had a teacher who would read stories that kids would bring in. And I brought that in one day. And she read it, and the bell rang before we got to the end. There's like 2 or 3 paragraphs left. None of the kids got up. They all had to hear what happened. And then when that last line hit, everyone screamed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I was like, I want to do that. So when I write for kids, I write for me as a kid. I think kids can handle a certain amount of fright. I mean, there's plenty of horrible, terrible stuff to be frightened with in the world, but the fun kind of frights, the ghosts and the vampires and all that, I want them to be
So you
scared.
grew up like I did on Karloff.
Yes.
Let's see a couple of the other names.
Boris.
Boris Karloff. And
Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi. My particular favorite was Vincent Price.
Oh, yeah. He was.
I was a huge fan of Vincent
I was
Price.
too. He always had a little bit of humor in his
Yes.
performances,
Yeah,
but it was very subtle.
Very subtle, but it was sly.
Yeah.
And it was... sly is the best word I can think of. He was just... And then he did things like... Did you ever see him do the Muppet Show?
Oh, God. Yeah.
And he
Years
did the Muppet
ago.
Show and
Yeah.
just really made fun of himself and horror
Yeah.
movies there. And so he was the kind... He didn't take himself seriously
Yeah.
at what he did.
A lot of people, turned their nose up at, doing the horror movies back then. And, I'm making a living at this.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with it.
So Twilight Zone,
Twilight Zone, Outer Limits.
Outer Limits.
And then you get to the Hammer films with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. I like the...
Yes.
Actually, Christopher Lee's Dracula was my favorite.
Really? Yeah. Those kind of scary movies I like.
Yeah.
The bug movies, the spider movies, I like those. The modern day horror movies I don't like because I'm not a big gore and slasher.
No. I will sit through some gore if it's a really well written story. 30 Days of Nights, an example I can come up with. But yeah, I'm not gonna.
It's the same.
Watch Scream again.
The haunted yard or the haunted display we're doing for we call it haunted for the Colonial Quarter is family friendly, extremely family friendly for this year, because so many people like to go to these haunted houses where there's somebody jumping out at you with a chainsaw. I mean, it's almost
that's a cheap scare. They do that in the movies. The sudden
yeah. But at a haunted house, you can hear the doggone chainsaw before you even get to it because you're in a haunted house. So it's a different kind of a scare. You're almost there. But I like haunted houses that give you a thought process.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of a haunted house that I did in Tucson, Arizona. We had this piece of hallway that we didn't know what to do with, and we turned it into a maze, a back and forth maze, left, right, left, right, left, right, about 30 feet long and about 4 foot wide hallways, very close. We built it to look like it was the cellar and the walls were all dirt and rock and everything else, and then we painted everything a very deep dark gray, made it paper mache and chicken wire, deep dark gray, and then went in and put glue everywhere and then threw rubber glow-in-the-dark bugs everywhere.
Oh, nice.
That wasn't the scare, though. The scare was the strobe lights that were going off to keep you from seeing where you were going and making it look like the bugs were moving. That still wasn't the scare. The scare was that we had gone to some friends of mine that owned a pecan orchard, and we got dead pecan shells. And the floor was painted black, so we painted the pecan shells black, and we just spread them all over the floor. So every footstep was a crunch, crunch, crunch. With the live moving bugs, or what you thought was live moving bugs.
There you go. That's nice.
So the scare was the crunch.
Yeah.
We had people come in out of that on the run and stand there and just shiver. Because that's the scare.
Yeah.
It's psychological. Psychological scares are the better ones. So
bugs, man.
Bugs.
I used to live in New England, and I worked at a country radio station in Springfield, Massachusetts. And then nearby Chicopee every year had what was the biggest agricultural fair in the country every year. It's called the Big E, and they had these big grounds and properties. And one Halloween, they had a big haunted house there. And as a radio guy, I went out and I was doing a live broadcast from there, but I thought, I'll go through and check it out. And so they're running people through, and there was this very, very large woman in front of me, and she was jittery and jumpy, and one of those guys did that about midway through, jumped out, tried to scare her, and she punched him. She laid him out flat.
See, and that's the danger of doing these jump out things.
Oh, yeah.
You either are going to hurt somebody or you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And so when I built haunted houses, I've always made sure that there was a distance that my actors had to require, that distance between the actors or between the guests,
right,
so nobody got hurt.
Well, one thing I really liked that they did, and this wasn't too terribly scary, but they did it well. You go down this hallway and there's all the portraits of people in the historical garb. And, the third one and the eighth one's actually a person, in this little recessed room, and they just, how are you?
Yeah. I went through one once that they had taken the floor out and put a glass or a plexiglass floor, and underneath it was filled with snakes.
Oh, nice.
And you didn't see it until you were halfway through the room, and then the lights go off, but the lights under the floor go on, and you're surrounded by these snakes. That's a scare too.
Have you seen any of the footage? It's a glass bridge, and I think it's in China somewhere, and it's like 1,000 feet up, and people walk out on it, and these cracks will appear, and the sound effects of the bridge cracking, and people freak out.
I'd be pretty upset with that. I wouldn't be happy with
that.
But
it's just special effects.
That's cool, but I wouldn't be happy with it.
Nah.
So your book just came out, right?
Yeah, it came out September 27th.
Aye. Is it a collection of stories, or is one big story?
The editor I worked with Macmillan for my first two kids' books, she knows what I like to do. So I think of them as novels with embedded stories in them. The first two are a haunted house and a character much like you, but he's a famous horror author. Has a contest, short story writing contest, and these are all the finalists, and they're going to tell the stories in the house at night. So it's got all the kids' stories in it. He tells some as well, but it's all tied in. So she moved over to Little Brown and Company and started her own imprint, Christy Ottaviano. And she got in touch with me. I was actually in New York a few years ago, and just out of the blue, she called. She didn't know I was there or anything, and she said, I'm over at Little Brown and Company. She said, I got a lot more freedom here. I've got more marketing. I'd like you to do something like the Damon Hall, which was the first book I did, Damon Hall and Return to Damon Hall, Evil Roots. So I came up with this, and you'll like it because the main story is a kid who does a podcast.
Oh, really?
And his name is Jesus, but everyone calls him Zeus. And then his David. His David is actually a girl named Jana. And what had happened? She's
You're not wearing a dress, David.
Well, how do we know?
Well, hey, as we tell people, there might be
call it a kilt all you want,
David.
David.
That's it. Yeah. It could be a kilt, and sometimes I might not be wearing pants during the podcast.
But he and his best friend, this other kid named Tobin, Jana's his older sister, they went to this carnival that just popped up in town, and it's a fictional town, Crescent Harbor, but it's based on St. Augustine. And it just pops up and they go on Halloween night, and it's got all this weird stuff and all these weird people that run it. The exceptionals, they're like the freak show people. So they're meeting the giant and the two-headed man and all that. And then there's a house of mystery and mirrors. And the carnival's run by the queen of the carnival. And they go into the house of mystery and mirrors and can't get out. And eventually they end up out of the mirrors, but in the house itself, and there's no way you can escape because you got to know this labyrinth to get out. Well, they finally figured out a way how to get out, and they've been in there. You can't judge time in there, so they don't know how long they've been in, but it seems like months. and they figure a way to get out, and they're almost all the way out, and they get separated. Zeus makes it out, but Tobin doesn't. So Zeus starts this podcast called Odd Occurrences, the title. And it's a podcast strictly for kids who experience supernatural things, and they call in and they talk about the supernatural things that they've experienced. So those are the embedded stories.
Oh, very cool.
And then the reason he started the podcast, though, was to learn the location of this carnival, because it vanished the next day. So every week when he does a show, he does it live on Saturday night, and then, of course, it's available as a podcast. He puts out the Carnival Nocturne hotline number. If you see it, let me know. And this is a 1-year anniversary, and he's actually for the first time telling the story about his friend who was taken, and the carnival shows up at the end of the podcast. The Queen of the Carnival calls him and invites him out, and so he goes out there to rescue his friend.
Well, it sounds like a really very intriguing.
Yeah,
I like it. It sounds very cool. So
hopefully kids do too.
Well,
and I told my agent I was going to be on your show tonight. She said, "Well, make sure you tell people if they buy it and their kids like it to put a review on Amazon."
All right. Well,
so there you go.
I will put a review on Amazon.
It's for kids 8 to 12. If you have children that age, grandchildren, pick it up. It's a great one to read with them for Halloween. I'm glad they put it out late September so we can talk about it as Halloween approaches.
Well, I'm looking forward to putting myself into the book and reading it, because I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Okay.
It sounds like a really good story, and having worked with you, I truly know that you put your heart into anything you do, so it's got to be a really great story. So,
I was going to just run down some of the... my wife, we were talking, and you've got that picture of Oliver, if you want to bring that up.
yeah, throw that up there, David.
The February before the pandemic, I played Fagin and welcoming Oliver into Thieves' Kitchen. And as we were doing that show in rehearsals, I started talking to the kids, because, kids have changed so much from we were young. I said, what are the things that you guys, think could be scary? What do what scares you, but in a good way and stuff? And so some of these stories are actually inspired by stuff they told me. I put an escape room in here. It's called the Escape or Else Room.
Oh, wow.
Let's see, Black Eyed Kids, That Urban Legend. I got one called The Great White Nothing, where these kids are at a house and just nothing starts creeping in on the house. It's just white. And then they realize things are pixelating before they go out of existence. So it gets to that theory that reality is actually just a computer program, and we're inside a computer program.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that. And then the regular scares that we know, got one called The Doll Room. Got one, Follow the Reader, which is my tribute to Ray Bradbury, that story I told you about. I kind of did a take on that.
Nothing about clowns?
Yeah, that's going to be...
That's next, right?
If we do a sequel to it, I got to put the clowns in there.
I've had so many people tell me, well, you're not going to have any clowns, are you? People are so scared of clowns. And so I was talking with my friend about this when we were talking about clowns. Clowns, up to a certain point, were okay. Everything was all right with clowns, because you had, Red Skelton and all these other... even Jerry Lewis did a clown.
Oh, yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with clowns. And then you had Stephen King. And then you had John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, John Wayne
Gacy probably was the first one that really just tore it up.
And then you go... I'm trying to think... Oh, the movie Freaks. Did you ever see that? Todd Browning silent movie?
No.
It's worth a watch. They actually got real freaks to be starring. It's a horror movie, and very politically incorrect today if it were to...
Wow, I'll have to go watch that one.
Yeah. And they had some scary clown figures.
So we did a show together. It's been what now? 6 years? 7 years?
I keep track of time of anything.
Yeah,
it tells me how old I am.
Yeah. Colonial Crew Review. And there is all of us. Let's see. There's Diego.
Yeah, Molly. Andrew Devereaux.
Yeah.
Sydney Zaruba.
And Mr. Nance there, and
That was actually one of our early rehearsals.
Yes.
Because we actually got some really different costuming.
When Grimm rewrote the entire show, because it was a completely rewritten show from its original.
Yeah.
Grimm sat at my house, and we went through all kinds of things and I got to collaborate a little bit on it.
That was a great script.
He thought it was hilariously funny that for the first 20 minutes or so of the show,
You were passed out.
I'm passed out on the stage. Can't move, can't do anything. He thought it was hilariously funny.
It's not easy, is it?
It is not easy, and I had just lay there and I was the drunk magician of this cast.
So yeah, we're a traveling troupe. We were the Piccolata Players,
which is actually based off of a real historical event here in St.
the
Augustine.
actual troupe.
Yeah, the actual troupe.
In Piccolata, they were set upon by, I can't remember which tribe it was, but Native Americans, and killed some of them, stole everything they had, and then they started showing up in town, these Native Americans wearing these Shakespearean costumes.
Yes.
They'd stolen from the...
Yeah.
And it took place in Piccolata, so...
And Piccolata is just outside of St. Augustine.
Yeah.
It's out where the 4-H building is, out in that area. So, yeah, it was, as I said earlier, it was my first foray into having a script that I had to... And I was scared to death of the script, because I'm not very good at memorizing anything. Everything I had ever done having to do with magic was improv.
Yeah.
Everything I did was improv. I'd never memorized a script before in my life.
Well, the good thing about a show like this is you just got to keep in mind what direction the story's taking, and then you might not get your lines exactly, but if you keep that in mind...
And there were a few times I probably didn't get my lines right, but as long as... What I told myself was, as long as that whatever I was saying was the proper interaction with the other actors as we were going along, then nobody knows the difference. And then the other thing I always tell myself, I'm sure you have too, and when I do an acting seminar, I tell people, the audience has no idea what you're going to do. None whatsoever, really.
Right.
And so if you make a mistake and you don't acknowledge the mistake by acting like a knucklehead, then they have no idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
So as long as you tell yourself that, it makes it easier. So, and it was a blast. We only did it for 4 months.
Yeah.
It was a shame. It really had the potential to do something wonderful.
Oh yeah.
And it just
at least it got the stage built out there, and so we got the colonial music going on.
So I mean, it was a lot of fun. So,
and I'd seen you do close-up magic before, but that's the first time I've saw you do some really cool tricks. He's talking about being the drunk magician of this traveling troupe of actors, and he comes out on stage and he's got a glass in one hand, pouring rum into it with the other, and then he lets go of the glass and it just hangs there as the liquid's pouring in. That's such a cool.
That is a cool illusion. And there was something that I had Grimm put into the show that was a tribute, because another old actor that is a favorite of mine was Danny Kaye.
Oh yeah,
remember the sword fighting scene?
Yeah, that was
because that came from his movie. Court Jester?
Court Jester, yeah.
And it was a hypnotist thing. And the
man with the vessel has the brew, which is true.
That's it. and the other sword player that Danny Kaye was playing was Basil Rathbone.
Yep. Yeah, Basil was good.
And Basil Rathbone was as good, if not better, sword player than Errol Flynn.
Yeah.
Very much so. So we're talking about old actors. There's a couple of old actors.
Yeah, right. Good.
So we put that little part into the play, but it was a musical, and there was some really great singing going on in there. And some
Molly is incredible.
Molly's a great singer,
great voice.
And it was just a lot of fun to do that on the Colonial Calder stage. And maybe one of these days we'll get a chance to do something else again there.
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
Well, Grimm and I, several years ago, we started on a project, and I want to bring it to fruition, but I got so many projects going on again. And he was going to do a tour with John Stavely, and they're going to call it Grimm and Gravely. And then let's turn it into a script, and then I picked it up when he kind of got tired of it. But the premise for this, again, it's another traveling group of performers, and this would be like Victorian era type thing. And there's a story that goes through. I'd be Graves, which is an old man who helps fund the traveling troupe, and he does recitations, and Grimm's the head of it. And my wife had been murdered 7-8 years previously in a robbery attempt, stabbed with a knife. And Grim takes me in because I've become this terrible drunk, and I'm a wealthy man, so I run it. But what's kind of cool about this show is that we have a whole lot of empty spaces. So whoever's available upcoming that Halloween will get in touch with them. You know, you want to come and do the show with us? Do like 3 magic tricks, 4 magic tricks. First act's all light and funny. Second act slowly getting darker and darker. So you'd work your magic tricks around that. Same thing with singers, musicians, jugglers.
That's a cool concept.
Yeah. So I really need to put my nose to the grindstone and finish that off.
I just had a dawning thought. Why is it that almost every one of the movies, the really good movies or the really good villains, it's always because they lost their wife or their girlfriend? You ever notice that? Dr. Freeze.
The Punisher lost his
whole family. Vincent Price did one that, well, he was Egghead in the Batman movies, or the Batman TV shows, but there was a movie he did, and I can't think of the name of it, that he had lost his wife and went crazy trying to figure out how to take care of resuscitating her, so to speak. So just a thought I just had about that.
But my character's not a bad guy, but it actually comes into play later on that there's someone at the carnival is responsible for the wife's murder.
Ah.
And it's got one great ending scene.
Well, you're gonna have to go ahead.
Put it out.
You got to get that one
I
out.
know.
You got to get that one out.
I want to tell you about it, but I'm not gonna.
No, don't.
We'll get it done.
Yeah. Well, later on, when the show ends, we always have a little 15 minutes to sit down. Davey, I'll give you a quick warning. The gunfighter, make sure that's ready for us. I want to show Andy that later because we've been talking about it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, you actually sent it.
Yeah, we're gonna do that, and having you and Grim and a couple of the others help me with it, it would be hilariously funny.
Along those lines.
But do something along those lines as a pirate story, not a western.
Yeah,
and it would be hilariously funny. We even have a blind guy to be in the show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I mean, we got to work on that one. So, and we can use the Colonial Quarter for it. So it's something I'm looking forward to working on, and it's one of the ones in my 2023 must do.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to do it in 2023. So it's all about putting shows together, but it's all about entertaining. And Andy here has done voices, and look at this.
There, me and
Wild
David.
Bill, right?
Yeah, and Bert Kierstead, who's doing tours at the Colonial Quarter now.
Yep, Bert's over there doing tours. He plays his little guitar or his ukulele once in a while.
Yeah, Annie Get Your Gun. I was Buffalo Bill Cody.
And if anybody does not recognize the Indian in the middle, that is our own Davy Longwood playing Sitting Bull. He actually played that part pretty good.
Oh, he played it really good.
I mean,
you got some blood, right, David?
Yes, half Chippewa.
Yeah, he's Chippewa.
And it's funny because in this atmosphere of cancel culture and being offended and stuff, several times we had people who stalk out upset because there's a Native American in the show. And the funny thing is, he's got blood. I can't remember her name. Was it Stormy? One of the ensemble. She was like 3/4 Native American, and then. And the general manager of the theater had some blood in her as well. So it's like, well, if it's not offending us, why is it offending you?
People just have this 2 reasons, and we try not to be very political here, but the conversation can always go that way. There's two things. There are way too many people that think they have the right to be offended. Mm-hmm. It's not written in the Constitution anywhere. I always like to tell people that. And the other thing, and this was a conversation I had, and as a writer and an actor, I would guarantee you almost will agree with me on every point of it. Censorship is wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong, totally wrong. If you don't like something, you don't like the comedian at a comedy club, because I've watched on YouTube many people
they're
all upset
starting
with
to
a
get
comedian.
up in their faces and stuff.
Walk out. Go away. You don't like the book? Put it away. Throw it away. Don't go to the library. You don't like the TV show? Turn the dial. You don't like the radio program? Turn the dial. Censorship is wrong. And it should be left up to the individual to decide what is right for them. And it shouldn't be because you think it's right for me, it's right for me. That's just wrong. And being a comedian, having been in comedy clubs, I try to be very careful. I don't use dirty language.
Yeah.
Because I don't find that to be terribly funny.
Yeah, to be really fun, there's an art to it.
And it's
you got like a Dave Chappelle or something like that.
Yeah, I call it innuendo humor.
Yeah.
You're walking up to the line, tiptoeing over the line, but not fully going over the line. That's how I refer to it. There's been a few places where I've used some harsher language. I've done a couple of comedy routines in biker bars, and it's
well, you have to.
You play to the audience.
Yeah, right.
So censorship is really bad. So that brings me to a question. Have you had anybody for any of your books give you any problems?
No, not.
I mean, you're writing your books for children anyway, but
there was, when the first book came out, it was put in the library at that school, at my wife's school, and one of my wife's students read it, a young woman, and I was at rehearsal for something. I'm not sure what the show was. I was either in it or I was building the set. And her mother came up to me and she goes, "You wrote Damon Hall?" And I was like, "All right, I want to get some praise here." I go, "Yeah, you wrote that book." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, thanks to you, my daughter won't go to the mailbox anymore because I have an abduction scene when a young woman goes to the mailbox and God, what was the guy's name? The Ripsaw killer or something like that abducted her." And you're talking about bikers, and that story was all about this biker kid no one in this little town likes. He's got this old Harley held together by, spit and bubble gum.
Yeah.
And he ends up rescuing the girl whose older brother is his nemesis, and he doesn't want to rescue her, but he's got to. And then the killer chases him in his car. And so I've ridden Harley since I was 20, so I had a lot of fun. Right,
that would be a fun one too. Wow. Yeah, I see.
And I can understand that because her daughter's middle schooler, and I scared her to the point that she couldn't go to the mailbox for several
but she'll get over that.
Oh yeah, I know.
I mean,
deep down inside, I was like,
yeah, of course.
Well, actually, to her face, I was like, cool. And then I saw, oh, she's serious. She is angry.
See, and that was the conversation that I had this past week. We were talking about book banning. That's what brought the whole thing up. Because there's been a few times over the past couple of years that I've made donations of books to school libraries.
Right.
And, and this person came right out and told me, well, your books now have to be on an accepted book list.
Yeah.
Oh, why?
And they're holding funding for the librarians to buy new books until they figure out how they're going to do this.
She told me that too, and she said if your book has not been in any school library in St. Johns County, you can't put your books there anymore. Thank goodness some of the books that I have done are already there. So, but we got to talking about it, and I said, here's where censorship comes into play, that parents have to step in and be parents. That's where it's important.
Yeah.
So in the case of this little girl that was scared, instead of her mother being upset with you, maybe they should have had a conversation about the reality of the book itself.
Right.
And the other thing is that there's a lot of bad stuff in this world. You
said
said that earlier.
And when we were kids, we grew up in the Cold War, and that was frightening. That's kind of like things are now.
Yeah.
And that was an escape. The monster movies.
Yes.
It was an escape. We got scared, but it was an escape. And then all the UFO, the alien invasion movies, those started during the Cold War. And I read some psychiatrists talking about how that came into play. And then, of course, you got the giant monsters from Japan, and those were born out of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Right.
It's always radiation.
So I'll give you a movie. Chances are you've probably seen it, but I saw it when it first was on TV. It was a made-for-TV movie, and I was about 9 years old, and it scared the hell out of me. And that was The Ghost and Mr. Chicken.
I love that. I saw it in the theater.
Oh yeah,
it was a
movie
release.
Yeah. I saw it on TV, and I saw it in
I'll
my
tell
house.
you what, when they showed that portrait with the
with the shears
in the neck,
garden
the blood
shears
coming out, I fainted right along with Don.
It scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
I was scared to go in my room for a while or walk down the hallway. I was about 9 years old, but it was a comedy.
Yeah.
It was an entire comedy movie, but yet it still scared me.
I like what I like, and I tried to use it in my second murder mystery for adults. So I've got 2 murder mysteries and 2 more coming out. One I co-wrote with Grimm, by the way. We've got a publishing deal. But what I like is and Shaun of the Dead's a good movie to point this example out, how things start out really funny and not serious, and then on the turn of a dime,
it's serious. Yes,
I love that.
That movie was. I actually like that movie.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite zombie movies, that's for sure. But my second murder mystery is called Red Canvas, and Grimm and I created a town based off of St. Augustine we call San Marco. And then this other book coming out called Fits of Rage I co-wrote with him. It's about a private eye named Geronimo Fitzgerald. Everybody calls him Fitz. So each book will be fits of rage, fits of jealousy, fits of this,
very
fits
cool.
of that.
Very good play. Very good.
We've just got accepted. We hadn't even started the editing process, so I don't know when that one will be out. But that's another good example because it's all of Grimm's humor.
Oh,
and again, it turns on a dime, and it's funny when I think of Fitz, I think of Grimm. You know, when I was doing my part of the writing, that's what I thought of. And he said, and I thought of you for his fashion. He wears cargo shorts and t-shirts.
When Grimm first started working for the Pirate Museum, I don't know if I ever told you this story or if he ever told you this story. When he started working for the Pirate Museum, I was telling myself, well, my days are numbered because he's really good, whatever he takes on. My days are numbered. But things kept going, and I had to do a corporate gig, and I needed another pirate to go with me. And there was about 400 people at this poolside corporate thing, and all we were supposed to do was just walk through the crowd and take pictures and improv with the crowd and everything. And I noticed that he really wasn't his forte, and he really wasn't, because the people are right there on him.
Yeah.
And so I pulled him aside, we started doing some other things where he eventually, what made it work was he became the SME to Captain Hook.
Right, yeah.
And then we were able to work.
You gave him something, yeah.
Gave him some direction for it.
Because you should point out, Grimm's a master at improv. He actually taught classes for years, corporate events.
The people on him, he admitted it was strange to him.
But you give him a direction, it's like, boom, he's off and running.
So that night when we left, we stopped and had dinner together. And I told him, I said, I'd love to do more of these because this really worked out well. And he was very excited about it. And then I admitted to him, I said, when you first started working at the Pirate Museum, I thought my days were numbered because you far were a fantastic pirate. And he goes, you know what? I didn't think I could keep my job because of you. So we had the same thought about each other. So I've always had an admiration for him, and he's quick. He is quick.
Yeah, because we did after the Colonial Crew review. Him, me, Maddie Mack, and then Strago was part of it. My wife. We had a little improv troupe. We do improv once a week at the Colonial Oak. And he's just a master. I'd never done it before, but I greatly enjoyed it, and a lot of it was to watch him. But he has an innate talent, not only in himself, but spotting people's strong points and elevating them.
Yeah,
and that's why he's so good as a director.
Well, that's why the Colonial Crew review was so good, because he was able to write the parts for the people that he knew were going to play it. So it really worked out well. It was a good show, and I've got lots of respect for him, and I'm going to have to try to get him on the show.
That'd be very, very entertaining show.
He would be a lot of fun. So I always like to ask people this, what's the most memorable entertainment experience you've ever done?
It's hard to say because there's a lot of cool stuff in radio, riding to a concert with Reba McEntire and her husband
that would be cool.
And having police, talking radio days, and I worked all formats, but country was my favorite. Personally, I like jazz and rock, but the country artists are really so approachable, and they're really down to earth. Met Garth Brooks several times. I met him right before he broke off at a country radio seminar in Nashville one year, and 4 a.m, we're throwing the football with a bunch of other people in the lobby of the Grand Ole Opry, and he came to Hartford when I was working in Springfield, so we competed with the Hartford radio station. And he was at the peak of his popularity. And I was supposed to meet some winners, get him backstage to meet him, but the highway was dead standstill. It was a parking lot because of the concert. And so about 2 miles away, I said, I'm going to have to run to make it on time. My wife drove the car, so I'm running in cowboy boots. Get there all sweaty, and I'm sure the record people tell him who he's going to meet, but I walk in, he looks up, Jim Andrews, which was my radio name at the time. Hey, Garth, how you doing? He goes, you're a beer man, aren't you? And I said, yeah. Tony, get Jim a beer. And it was really cool. And we're talking, and I said, man, it's crazy out there. We can't get down the highway. It's just, stuck traffic, people wanting to come to the show. I said, my wife's there. And he calls over his stage manager, and he says, Bobby, he says, I'm not going to go on stage until I get a chance to meet Jim's wife. So, it sounds like he held up a concert for her, but I'm sure he's thinking all these other people as well. But it made a great story. And she came in and got to meet him, got some good pictures and stuff. So
very cool.
That was cool. Acting-wise, man, I just did one at Limelight that I didn't even audition for it, but they needed some old goats.
You mean greatest of all time?
Yeah, greatest old guy. No, goat, old farts. It was called Parade, and I know the director in passing. He's a very talented director named Bradley Akers, and he teaches up at DA, and I think he does marketing at Limelight and stuff. He called me and said, man, I've always wanted to work with you. You got great role. It's actually 2 parts, plus you'd be in the ensemble. And they ended up getting Bert from CQ to be in it as well. And I was like, man, it's a lot of singing it. And he goes, yeah. I said, I'm not a singer. I'm not a soloist. I said, I can, sing along with the ensemble and stuff. He says, you only got half of one song that you got to sing. It's the opening. And you're the old Confederate soldier. And it's called Parade, and it's based on a true event. It took place in 1913 in Atlanta and Marietta, Georgia. And there was this Jewish gentleman from Brooklyn who'd come down to run a pencil factory. And these days we know just the description of how he behaved. He was OCD. So he was, people thought he was kind of weird.
Right.
And they would celebrate every year Confederate Memorial Day. And one day during Confederate Memorial Day, this girl named Mary Fagan, she's 13 and works at the pencil factory. A lot of the young girls, tend to, however old, worked at this pencil factory. She came to get her check from him, or get her money. So she worked 12 hours at 10 cents an hour. So she got $1.20. And she leaves this office. Well, next morning the police are at this guy's house. And they'd found Mary Fagan raped and murdered in the basement of this factory. And because of the way he acts and because he's an outsider, they blamed him, and the whole town turned against him. The prosecutor, and this whole show was based on the actual written records. But the prosecutor wanted to be governor of Georgia, and so if he could win this, it'd be a big feather in his cap. So he coached everyone on what to say. And so they ended up sentencing him to death. And the governor, who Bert Kierstead played, investigates, goes back to all the witnesses, talks to them, realized that they were all
coached.
Yeah. And so he moved it from death penalty to imprisonment for life. And then that, he could work on getting out after that. Well, some of the good old boys, they called themselves the Knights of Mary Fagan, made a midnight visit to this work farm that they'd put him on. Is more of minimum security now, and they got him and they took him and
Hung him?
they hung him from a tree. And so this was a true story about that. And it was, worked with some incredibly talented people, great singers, but I was just so moved every night that when we take the curtain call, I couldn't smile. I was close to tears every night.
Wow.
But it was very powerful. I like that. And then last year I did Once, which was the hardest show I've worked on. And that was another musical. I'd seen it in New York. And one song in it, I was moved to tears. And it's not your regular musical music. It's more the lines of folk and acoustic rock type thing. It takes place in Dublin. I can't think of the name of the guy Glenn Hansard. He's famous singer songwriter, wrote all the songs, and I just blown away. But I noticed one of my favorite character actors was in the stage version, and it's David Patrick Williams, I think his name is. He's the guy who was in The Warriors, the movie The Warriors.
Oh yeah.
Warriors, come out and play.
Yep.
He played the main guy's father, and he played mandolin on stage, and he was really good. And so when I heard Limelight was going to be doing this, I said, "Yeah, I might try. Maybe I can learn mandolin." So someone gave me a mandolin, and then the pandemic started and the lockdown, so that gave me plenty of time to practice. And I was getting all the major chords. I was like, "Oh yeah, I can do this." Auditioned. I got a role for bank manager, and I'd play mandolin, and then they gave me the music book, and it's like, I mean, just chords I'd never heard of. They had the specific strum patterns. Each song would go, different time signatures and different key changes and all that. And I spent probably about 6 hours a day at home working on the music and then going to rehearsals at night. 2 people dropped out of the ensemble. The music director left. We were supposed to memorize 18 incredibly difficult songs. The director up to that point had been working with the guy and girl. They didn't have names in the shows, guy and girl. I was bank manager. And he'd just worked with him. Right when we were getting ready to start working with the whole cast, his daughter got COVID.
Oh, great.
So he had to isolate himself. He couldn't come in to direct, but he'd tell what he had in mind, his vision and all that. And we pulled it off. It was a great show.
Really?
And that was very rewarding.
When they are tough and you get through them,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why the Colonial Crew Review is one of those things that I really like, because it was tough for me.
Oh, yeah. No, it was.
It was tough.
It was hot.
It was hot, because we started it in, July, and ran it July, August, September, I think.
Yeah.
I think something like, and we were rehearsing in May and June.
We started 8. Was that when we'd start?
Yeah.
Or 7. I can't
7.
remember.
7,
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Then it was the sound wars because all the local bars in the area would be
Yeah.
cranking up their music.
It was tough, but I enjoyed it, and it's one of those things that I will never regret.
Yeah.
Never. Same with playing Captain Hook in a ballet for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I won't regret them. It's just more things.
And with your crews and all that you get in tight with these people, and it develops a really good relationship.
Yeah.
And when you're in theater and stuff, it's funny because you go on my Facebook page. I've got friends on Facebook who are 16. I've got friends who are touching on 90, and you really don't look at age and stuff that much.
No, my Facebook page. I just got a notice the other day that I'm reaching 5,000 again, and I got to eliminate people on my Facebook page. So, and I have 5 different Facebook pages because of everything we do,
Right, yeah.
pirate and everything. So
I've got 2. I've got one for the author. I've got. That's about as far as I'm going with social media. They want me to Twitter and Instagram.
I don't understand. If it wasn't for David here, I wouldn't be able to do any of this, because David's the one sitting there. I'm the big giant head in the Wizard of Oz,
Right, yeah.
and Davy's the little guy that is making the air balloon work so Dorothy can go home. That kind of a thing. That's that's the comparison right there.
I've got a website. It's andrewnance.net, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna update this thing a couple times a week and put photos on it. And it's like, yeah, it didn't last.
Yeah, that's it.
But I go up and change it every few months.
It's a chore. It really is. So, Davy, we've really hit on all kinds of things here. We should do a couple of the other things we need to do. And you're the one keeping track for me, but I'm looking at the script in here, and we should be maybe talking about a couple of other things, like your video that says This Week in History.
Oh, boy.
Wait a minute. We got one other thing we want to do, something special tonight. We want to do that first. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to throw a shout-out to a very good friend of ours. He may or may not be watching because sometimes...
He is watching.
Is he watching?
Cheers.
Cheers, Ed.
It's a birthday.
His birthday is tomorrow, and this next segment of our show is to our good friend Jimmy Knowles, otherwise known as Dirty James.
Dirty James.
Dirty James, and his birthday is tomorrow, so we wanted to say hello to him online. I'm glad he's watching, and let's do a couple of things that you did for him. How about the birthday song first?
All right.
And here we go. Go. All right, now. I can hear it. I can't see it. Uh-oh. Is it kicking your butt there, Davey?
Yeah.
You remember the birthday song we used to do at Colonial Quarter when someone had a birthday in the audience?
Yeah.
This is your
birthday. Job. Hey, Davey, are you able to load that video that I sent to you? Something I found? Put that up there real quick. We don't have to see the whole thing, but ladies and gentlemen, this is probably 7 or 8 years ago that I got to share the stage with the great Dirty James. And I know where it was at, too. Well, I think I know where it was at.
I can get a better. All right.
Oh, was he playing?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guitarist.
Should be playing.
We're actually singing Drunken Sailor.
Captain's daughter looks like George. Captain's daughter looks like George. Captain's daughter looks like George.
Early in the morning. That was at a bar and restaurant with a Irish theme down in Crescent Beach. Oh, they're no longer there anymore.
It was the O'Loughlin.
O'Loughlin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Named after the old sheriff.
That's what you do with a drunken sailor. That's what you do with a drunken sailor.
It was always a joy to get on stage and sing with Jimmy. And in the back there is Sonny Britches and her man.
All right, everybody singing with him. One.
Good job, David. Good
All
job.
right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we wish Jimmy Knowles a
Happy birthday.
tomorrow. We're a day early, but we thought maybe we'd just throw that in there and say hello to him because our show's tonight. Jimmy, if you're watching, I forgot you might be watching, so we've gone longer on the show. But if you need to now, go take a nap. Go take a nap. But have a rum for us. Cheers to you, Dave. Thanks. A good job, Davey. And cheers to Mr. Jimmy Knowles. Dirty James. Good job.
Now we can do the history.
Now do the history. I'll go ahead. learn from them. But Davey really does a great job putting these things together.
I always liked it when I was in radio. We'd always do every day, this day in history.
Yep, it's important. People like it. It's something that we like to do. It's the same reason that we started doing the respect for the past celebrities.
Yeah.
Because it just brings up memories and good thoughts of people. Once in a while, we have to tell Gunnar Hellfire to keep his mouth shut. He talks way too doggone much. He just is way too mouthy.
I see mute written on his face there, yeah.
What's that, Davey?
It's Captain.
What's that?
There's a lot of messages to check.
I see that. A lot of messages. I'm going right back to the beginning here.
They're all saying me to shut up.
Yeah. So I see a new name here, or correct me if I'm wrong, but is Spider Monkey a new one?
I don't know who Spider Monkey is.
I don't know who that is.
Like the name.
Zachary Harker. He's from Michigan. He's been on the show, actually.
Oh, cool.
So he's a pirate captain up in Michigan. Here's to another fantastic Monday, and coming in from Michigan with frigid 39 degrees. We'll keep it.
Yeah. I was sweating today. It got up to, I guess, upper 80s until the storm hit.
Until the storm hit. Yep, that's for sure. And there's Donna Bogus.
Yay!
So happy you are the special guest tonight. I miss being on stage with you. Congrats on another great book. Congrats on the great book, and thank you for the wonderful poem.
Done a couple shows with her.
Yep.
One with her hubby.
She's an excellent singer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she's a wonderful singer. She really is. Let's see. Ken Smith. Ahoy, all ye. Bring on the pirates. Very good, very good. Captain Smoo is there. I see Captain Smoo. Captain Smoo is in Quebec.
Nice.
We're an international
Yeah,
podcast.
baby, yeah.
We're really doing good. We're an international podcast. Hi. Let's see. And Little Traveler. You made a comment a little while ago about your Facebook page, and you got from young ages all the way up. Little Traveler lives in Jacksonville, and he's about 11 or 12. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 11 or 12 years old. He's been coming to the Pirate Museum on a regular basis, and last weekend, when I wasn't there, he came in dressed as a pirate,
Nice.
and he hung out. And there were people wanting to know if he actually worked there because he was answering questions.
I hope you told him you did work there.
So I'm going to have to do some extra reward for him because he's like my little protege, and it's so nice to have him
Little
around.
Traveler, get on his case. I keep wanting to do a book with him, a picture book for younger kids.
Yes.
And
with a magic and a pirate theme.
A pirate-based thing. Kid needing to sail, gets in with pirates, and the only way he survives is he grew up with an uncle who was a magician and taught him tricks. And the thing about the book we'd do is we'd actually tell the kids how the tricks are done so they could do it themselves.
So it would be a how-to on magic with a storyline. We've talked about it for, about 3 or 4 years now, I guess. But we both have so many projects.
I know, man.
And we're not getting any younger. No, not at all. Let's see who else is on there. So Captain Smoo, he's got me working on a project with him that has something to do with Santa Claus, and I play Santa Claus, so we'll be working on that.
Great outfit.
So we'll be doing that.
I've done Santa a few times myself. I don't have a cool costume like you.
But you have the voice, so I'll tell you my favorite Santa story here in St. Augustine, because this accent that I've got as a pirate, I'm stuck with it.
Yeah,
you know that.
Yeah,
I can't do much else without speaking like this. So we had a little, I don't know, it was about 5 years old out at the beach. I've done the beach Santa Claus for about 7 or 8 years now, and this was right around just before COVID, I think. And this little boy came up and sat with me and told me what he wanted and everything else. And I gave him a candy cane, and he walks away with Mom and Dad, and he turns around and looks at me and comes running back, jumps up into my arms, and he gives me a hug, and he whispers in my ear, "You sound just like Captain Mayhem." Literally,
well, we're distant cousins.
I mean, literally, there was my Santa Claus laugh right there.
Well, my favorite, it's just every year, I let my beard down. I got it in a braid, but I love it every year, starting mid-November through Christmas. And I'm sure you get this too. You'll be in stores, and little kids will look at you. Their eyes light up, and you're like, shh, like it's this. Yeah, I am Santa. Yeah. We're not going to tell anybody.
So I have kids that come on the school tours that think, "You're not pirate, you're Santa Claus." Mm-hmm. I tell them, "No, I'm Santa's cousin."
And sometimes, the cute young women will make remarks, and I'll say, "Well, you've been naughty this year, and Santa really likes that about you." And then my wife, if she's there, she'll jab
She'll
me in the
jab you
ribcage.
hard. Yeah, she'll let you know. So, Little Traveler, prisoner of Azkaban.
Azkaban.
Azkaban, I love Harry Potter.
Not Prince. I said Prince. He corrected me. Very good. I don't mind being corrected if I've made the mistake. That's good. Let's see. Ken Smith says, enjoy a good action movie, but nothing beats live theater.
Yeah.
The skill and characterizations of the actors is to be respected. Started on the stage himself. Will the Historian, that's my son, actually.
Oh.
He's a high school history teacher, and he watches the show.
Where's he?
He's a history teacher in northern Alabama.
Okay.
And he's going to be on the show, but via the way Davey on December 5th, because one of his loves of history is Second World War.
Yeah.
And December 5th is 2 days before December 7th, so we're going to talk about World War II.
Does he have any kids?
He does not, but we'll make sure he'll read the book, because my son is a huge.
Well, you talk about World War II. Talk to your son. One of these stories in here is called Zophia's Golem, and it takes place in Warsaw during the Nazi occupation. And I had to do a lot of research, because when you do something like that, you don't want to get anything wrong. So that one was very rewarding to write.
Well, good. I'm going to have to read this book. You're going to have to probably.
There you go. There's your copy.
You're going to have to leave a copy here now, so I can read the book.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. Hey, you'd be surprised of all the free books I've got. I know. So let's see who's on there. So he put Will the Historian back up there. He said, movies, especially if you are at opening night, like Avengers Endgame, pack house, everyone cheering. So yeah, the people get into the movies too. So that's a good one too.
You know what I mean? It's two separate forms of entertainment.
It is. It's probably a difficult comparison.
We used to go to the movies at least once a week before the pandemic, and I've been a couple of times since it ended. And the last time I went, it really wasn't that fun. It's like they had the same candy from before the lockdown. It was all stale and everything.
So do you remember, so let's just throw this out there, and we'll get back to the comments because it's more conversation. What's the first movie you ever went to see? Do you remember how old you were? Or
No,
I can tell you mine. Pinocchio.
Okay.
I went to see Pinocchio when it first came out.
My parents took us to movies all the time. I grew up first 11 years in El Paso, Texas, and they had the Fiesta Drive-In Theater, and we'd go every week. Dad loved the Clint Eastwood Western, so we'd all go see those, or the Clint Eastwood war movies. One of the early ones I remember that just blew me away was Tony Randall and the Seven Faces of Dr. Lao.
Oh, yeah.
That was really
That
good.
would be a politically incorrect movie to
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I've thought about that, you know.
I thought about it with like Blazing Saddles. And
stuff. And Mel Brooks has had people ask him, and he's admitted, I'd never be able to make that movie.
No, not at all.
Never. I mean, Peter Ustinov was the same way. Not Peter Ustinov. Pink Panther actor.
Oh, Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers. He did a couple of Oriental type characters.
He was one of my favorite ones. He did. Can't remember, The Party, maybe?
Yeah.
He was Indian. His name was something Bakshi.
None of those movies would be allowed to be made today. None at all. It's a shame. So the first drive-in movie I ever went to see, I remember we went to see Old Yeller.
That's good you're in a car because no one can see you cry.
No one can see you cry. Absolutely right. No one can see you cry. Very good. Let's move on down and see. Kara Creamer, my loving wife, says... Both. Each one gives you a different feeling and perspective.
I thought she was going to write, knock it off in there. I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, she's never done that yet. But let's see. Lord Claude Poland.
Nice.
Yo-ho, everyone. Very good. Lord Claude, we thank you for being here.
Local?
I don't believe so.
There was a big shipbuilding family in St. Augustine. They started in the 1920s, and the Polands were one of the families.
Well, if you're still watching and you're local, let us know. Did they have where Hurricane Patty's is?
Yeah, it was in that general area.
Yeah.
We went to Sato Life last night.
Yeah, how was it?
It was excellent, but they have a big marker honoring all the boat builders, and that was one of the family names. That's how I knew that. I shouldn't have said that. I just...
Need a children's book about Captain Mayhem and Max.
Oh, that would be a good one.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to work on that. I've actually thought about doing one that was a kind of a picture book of me and Max just going around St. Augustine and taking pictures of the different things here, and putting that in a picture book.
Well, I think that'd be great.
I think it'd be easy, but we'll have to see.
You think it's easy, and then you
I know. I think a lot of things are easy until I start working on them, especially magic tricks.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we hear. I saw the original movie, The Fog.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Steve McQueen.
And after that,
no, I'm sorry.
I refused to out to the bus stop on school days if it was foggy.
That was, what's the director's name? Married Suzanne Plachette. He did Halloween.
Not Carpenter.
Yeah, John Carpenter.
Carpenter, yeah.
Yeah, The Fog was great.
The Fog, yeah.
Suzanne Plachette had that radio station in the lighthouse and stuff.
The Red Canvas. Donna says The Red Canvas.
Yeah, thank you. I got the sequel coming out, and it's pretty cool. You'll like it because I steal from Oliver, a Fagin-like character in the book.
She wants you to sign her copy, so we'll have to make that happen. In fact, I'm thinking about it now. While I'm thinking about it, when we do Old City Pirate Fest in January, we're setting up an area in the Colonial Quarter just for authors.
Okay.
And we're inviting authors that have books, whether they're pirate books or children's books. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
They don't have to be. I'd like to invite you to be one of those authors.
Sure.
And it's a one-day event.
Give me a few weeks heads up, and I'll get some extra books
and bring some books in. You can sell the books, and I'm doing it. We're doing it for the authors. Don't have to pay, and we're not paying. It's a copacetic thing.
Yeah, sure.
If we hope they make money selling their books, and we hope the advertisement gives them something, and we're working it out. Now, there may be some other things that I have to do for some out-of-towners, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I'd love you to bring all your whatever books you have, especially your children's books, because we're advertising the Old City Pirate Fest via Inc., investing in kids, and they have an input into all the schools here in town.
Nice. So I like that. Yeah.
So that's going to be a good one for us. I see Scott is on board. Hey, boys, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Scott?
Hey, Andy, long time, brother. Very good, very good. And then a Facebook user says, hi, Scott. That's probably Scott just talking to himself. Love the This Week in History segment. Great job, Mr. Longwood. Yes, he does a very good job. Ken Smith does Santa Claus. Santa's lesser-known cousin, who takes care of all the ships at sea and the occasional maroonee. So here's what I tell people about being the cousin of Santa. And I've told some children this before. I tell them, you think that elves build those toys? No. Santa acquires the toys because his cousin Pirate steals them and gives them to him, and then he gives them to the children. And we all know that children act wonderful starting around Halloween all the way up to Christmas. They're wonderful children. Everybody's well-behaved. But as soon as Christmas is over and they've got their toys, they go back to being little rascallions. So Santa lets me know the children I have to go visit, and I go back and I visit them, and I take all their toys away from them and give them back to Santa, and Santa uses them again next year. It is called regifting. That's the story I tell now. So, stage manager for Colonial Crew Review. So much fun. Casey Mitchell. Ah, very good. Let's see. Spider Monkey. We got a lot of comments tonight. Very good. Will the Historian. I remember someone showing me King Kong with Jeff Bridges when I was a young lass.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. Put that up there a minute.
I love the original King Kong.
I remember someone showing me King Kong with Jeff Bridges when I was a young lass. Will the Historian, you were never a young lass.
You just liked it because Jessica Lange was in it.
Aye, that's the same reason that I like Cutthroat Island. Gina Davis.
Gina Davis.
I tell everybody that there's three things that make Cutthroat Island the best pirate movie in the world. Gina Davis in a corset, Gina Davis with red hair. That's it. That's all I need. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a lot of fun tonight. It's me, Sandra. Very good.
Oh, Sandra.
Sandra
D.
Yes. Very good. She said she was going to watch. I'm glad she did. Very good. Glad to have you aboard. Make sure that everybody hits that like on YouTube so that you're following along with us and see us every week if you can, because Monday nights is just kind of a dull night anyway, so we hope that you'll come along. We're also open to suggestions like here, treasures on the horizon. Ladies and gentlemen, next week, let's see. Next week is a special surprise because it's Halloween, and then we have the tasting tours of St. Augustine joining us. My good friend Marc Froger from Quebec, Captain Smoo, are live on location at Dick's Wings on November 21st. It will be a combination of a location show and our toy drive. We have nothing for November... Got the hiccups all of a sudden. Nothing for November 28th. Yeah, it is. I guess I'll have to have another shot now. Nothing for November 28th, but Will the Historian, my son, will be coming on board on December 5th, and we'll be talking about the history of World War II and Pearl Harbor. I'm sure that will be quite a good show, and it'll be a lot of fun. As you can see, we don't have a whole lot through the rest of December, so if you have something going on or you want to be a guest in the show, drop us a line, let us know. If you're the captain of a pirate crew, or you're in a show, or you're in a band, we want entertainers to be on the show with us to talk about you, your venue, and what you're doing, and having a good time with us. So join us, ladies and gentlemen, let us know. We are open to anything on this show. That's the treasure of the whole show. That's what's going on. How about our show sponsors, Mr. Davey? There they are. We have our show sponsors for this year: Ancient City Sirens, Dick's Wings, Paper and Strings, a great duet over in the Tampa area.
Very cool.
Shiver Me Timbers, Photo Opportunity Booth, and she'll be with us at Old City Pirate Fest this year coming up in 2023. Of course, the Colonial Oak Music Park is one of our sponsors, and I can't have anything going on without the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum being a part of it. Those are our sponsors, ladies and gentlemen. That's this year. We're getting ready to send letters out and try to get some sponsors for next year. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sponsors that we had last year. We'd like to double that. And we have all kinds of offerings if you'd like to sponsor us for the entire year, including doing a live broadcast in your location. Let us know what we can do. Send us a message. Talk to Mr. Longwood. Talk to Captain Mayhem. So, they're the people that support this whole show, ladies and gentlemen. The Powder Monkey, W. Mayhem Productions, the St. Augustine Swashbucklers, William Mayhem himself, that would be me. I always like to put my banner up there. And the cartoon version of Captain Mayhem, Hellfire Henley, and Davy Longwood is right there. And that is, we've got that on a flag now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it looks really good on a flag. Picture. Really good.
Who's the artist?
The artist is a sketchy guy out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, he was on one of our shows with us and has done some good stuff for us. He's doing I keep putting this out there because if he ever watches, he knows that I keep needling him for it. He's doing a picture of Captain Mayhem in a jail cell with a dog with the key in his mouth.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, but it's because it's a basset hound and it's Captain Mayhem.
Nice. Yeah.
A certain company that has a mouse can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, and
that won't stop me from getting in touch with you.
They'll probably,
saying
you know
something
what?
About
We'll put something in there. Maybe I'll put a rum bottle in there.
Yeah,
that'll make it even better. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to be a supporter of our show, we're always looking for Patreon members. Patreon is a good way to join us and give us just a little bit of money on a monthly basis. You can go to Patreon and look us up, captainsquarters.com. We have 2 levels of membership, Powder Monkey and First Mate. We have 1 Powder Monkey who donates $1 a month off that person's credit card, and we have 7 First Mates. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we have 8 Patreon supporters right now. We're 7 First Mates. If we get 3 more First Mates, once we get 10, the sketchy guy out of Las Vegas, Nevada, has agreed to take all 10 of those. We put their names in a hat, and we pull one name out, and he will do a cartoon character of them,
Sweet.
Just like he's done with us,
nice.
as a gift for being that way. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to do that just before Christmas, because that would make a great Christmas gift for somebody. We're at 264 subscribers. We're at 6 sponsors. We have 500 to 1,000 views a week on our 57 episodes. They seem like low numbers to me, but I'm told by many that those are pretty strong numbers. Okay. So I'm happy with that. So we're doing well, ladies and gentlemen. We're starting into our 2nd year, and we'd love to have you be a part of it. Go to Captain's Quarters Podcast 21 at gmail.com. I finally realized why the 21 is in there, because we started the show in 2021.
There you go.
I didn't realize that. But there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a great show. Have I missed anything, Mr. Davy?
No, Captain.
I think we want to give our guest one last plug on his book. Hold that book up. Let everybody see it. Put it right there. Odd Occurrences, ladies and gentlemen. It's available on Amazon, correct?
It's available on Amazon. Should be in stores as well. I haven't been to
Don't
Barnes
forget
and
to give
Noble
them the
to
parting
check, but
gift,
it should be
Captain.
there.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Longwood. We always like to give a parting gift to our guests.
Oh!
And it just so happens we have a poker chip with our logo on it.
Sweet.
And the poker chip is a black one. In Vegas, that means it's a $100 chip.
That's a nice one to have.
Yeah, but it's not worth $100. And on the back is our logo or our sign-off. And then it's put to a key, the key to the world. But in actuality, it is a bottle opener.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
We always like
that.
to give one of those to our guests. There you have
Nice.
it. You can hang that up, and
I'll put it in my office because my office looks a lot like this room.
isn't it nice to have something like
Yeah.
this to brag about and show off? And
I've got little skeletons. I've got a vulture. I've got all kinds of
well,
weird
we
things.
hope you hang that
A
up.
lot of skulls.
Aye, you see a lot of skulls in this room. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a great show. It's always a great show when we go over our hour. And this show, we did an hour and 29
I'm
minutes.
sorry.
Oh, don't be
Running on
sorry.
at the mouth.
I love it when I have guests that want to talk and tell us about things and answer questions. And as I said before, it was always a pleasure to work with this fine gentleman. And I learned some stagecraft from him. Believe it or not, he may not know that, but I learned some stagecraft from him. And having done improv all my life, working on stage with somebody that is a seasoned performer, it was a joy and it was
Well,
a
I
lot of fun.
appreciate that, man.
And I
Thank
hope we
you.
can do it again soon sometime.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And I got to get Grim in here.
Yeah.
Grim will be an hour and a half show too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he'll be an hour and
Easy.
a half. But ladies and gentlemen, we always like to sign off with the proper words. It's time for you to say so, Mr. Longwood.
Part of the podcast.
Part of the crew.
Always.
Always.
Thank you very much. We love you. Thanks for your support.